Greetings, honorable battle brother.
Brother, today we are discussing the glorious Primarch of the glorious chapter and the almost holy yellow men. That sounds wrong. The Imperial Fists.
Rogal Dorn and the
Yes.
Imperial Fists, the seventh son of the Emperor.
Yes.
The Primarch of the Imperial Fists.
Yes.
Dorn was called the Praetorian, of Terra, the Unyielding One, and had the wall name of Defiance, wall name being a term used for Imperial Fists to describe actions in battle,
Right.
or like nicknames.
Yeah, because they
Cute
couldn't
little
just call
nicknames.
They couldn't just call them nicknames.
Yeah.
Because
Also, if you follow the lore of if the Emperor had a text-to-speech device, he is also known as Adorable.
yes. And fun fact, Dorn is an Old English word which means castle and also fist.
Wow.
In Irish
so
Gaelic.
so Castle Fist.
Yes.
That's
Regal Castle Fist.
that's appropriate. That's very
Well
All right.
done. Well done, the Emperor.
well done, the Emperor. Your naming scheme has struck again. Okay, so Rogal Dorn being the seventh Emperor, seventh son of the Emperor. I mixed those words up a lot. I apologize. He was landed on the planet of Inuit, which was literally just cold. It was an ice planet.
Yes.
It was an ice world designated. I'm pretty sure it was also classified as a death world.
It was also-
because
it
it was
classified
not
as a
suitable.
Death Hive planet. Like,
Yeah,
think Necromunda, but ice.
ice. Obviously, this planet being cold, that's pretty much all it had going on.
Yeah.
It was tribal based, very clan designed. Rogal Dorn would be adopted by the Dorn family,
Yes. The House
I
of
believe-
Dorn.
the House of Dorn,
The House of
And-
Castle Fist.
the House Castlefist. Honored be their name. He would very quickly be adopted by a man which he would consider to be his grandfather, who is the leader of the clan of the house. And as you know, as we've discussed with all the other Primarchs, once Rogal Dorn was found by this family, they won. They just
Yes.
won. That was it.
I just want to point out that Rogal Dorn, despite being depicted as a basic, like your standard, I do the right thing all the time and I don't lie, goody two shoes paladin. Apparently, to this day, until he died, he had a robe from his grandfather and he slept with it on his bed.
Yeah, they joke about that, and the Emperor had a text-to-speech device.
Yes.
But you're saying it's true, so that's
Yes.
interesting.
Yes, here, Rogal Dorn and his mighty blankie.
Yes, naturally. Every great man has a blankie behind him.
Yes.
So once Rogal Dorn was ascended to the emperorship, kingship of Inuit, he then conquered the surrounding planets.
Yes.
And created a pocket empire that was basically the Imperium.
Yes, the Empire. He was known as the Emperor of the House of Dorn.
Excellent.
Yes.
He had this pretty much ready to go as soon as the Emperor came.
Yeah.
And upon seeing the Emperor, he basically got down to a knee and would hand over this pocket empire he spent so much time establishing.
Yeah. Also, apparently, this is when while he was building the Dornian Empire, that's when he found the Phalanx, which he would spend years working on. And the Emperor decided to let him keep the Phalanx and use that as his fortress monastery.
The Phalanx is fucking massive.
Well, yes.
It's like 3 times the size as any other ship ever created. Like, even like the Abyssal class that Lorgar created. We're not even gonna talk about those. Oh my fucking god, what a waste of content that was. Long story short, Lorgar is a fucking idiot, but we knew that already.
Yes.
We'll talk about that in Lorgar's episode, I think, maybe, if we ever decide to talk about that kitty fiddler. But yes, the Phalanx was huge, it was massive, and it became Dorn's flagship.
Yeah. And
Dorn's sons, the Imperial Fists, were, like his father, masters of building shit
Yes.
They were the best at Legos.
Yeah.
Dorn would meet his brothers. He would meet Reboot Gilliman.
Yeah.
He would meet Horace, obviously. And Horace and Dorn got along very, very well. Like, more so than the other brothers. And it's even said that they chose to be around each other as opposed to just being,
Wow.
creatures of circumstance. Yeah, I know.
That's not a
Crazy.
thing Primarchs did.
Brotherly love.
What? That's hard. That's so... What madness is this?
It was said in foreshadowing that Dorn could build any fortress, and Horus would storm any fortress. The Luna Wolves were being the masters of like relentless assault, and it is said that if they ever met, the resulting conflict would spiral into a never-ending stalemate.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert: it didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brief aside about the Imperial Fists. The Imperial Fists pre-Dorn continue the tradition of being exclusively being just smaller versions of their Primarch, where they also are very, very, very taciturn and cold. And apparently, they're the only formation to have recruited from all of Terra, as opposed to, like, say, the Emperor's Children, who were recruited exclusively from noble houses, or the Space Wolves pre-Rusk, who were recruited from this one notable tribe of maniacs.
Yes.
So they're also one of the few that recruited entirely from their homeworld, because, like we mentioned before, Rogal Dorn already had a pocket empire. He had his own person. He had a Macrog.
Right.
He had an Ultramar, basically. We'll talk about
essentially,
that
yeah.
He had his own little small empire, which he was already the Grand Poobah of. And so he was able to take a large portion of his men from there. And being that he was the seventh to show up, it says, according to Lex Canon, that 70% of their ranks were still aspirants. So most of them weren't even like full-fledged Space Marines. So that means that Rogal Dorn received the benefit of being with his legion from the outset. And
because they grew up with him.
Yeah. Just kind of watching them form and being present for their formation and growth and whatnot.
That's interesting, because now that you mention that, I do remember quite a bit, especially in the Siege of Terra, the Imperial Fists getting so much spotlight. A lot of the Imperial Fists actually mention that they're all from Inuit. Like, not all of them. Like, for instance, like, there's a separation. There's, like, a status that comes with being from Inuit. So, like, Fafnir Ran, who's, like, Sigismund's right-hand man, talks about being from Inuit and his experiences on Inuit. And how that translates for the men around him, who are newborn, they call them, who aren't from Inuit. They're foraged along the way during the Siege of Terra, during the Horus Heresy. They don't understand what it's like to live on their planet.
Yeah. So, Rogal Dorn. I feel like also this is kind of a big contrast to Russ, who we talked about before, where most of the other Primarchs who already had like legions that they were introduced to,
right?
As opposed to Rogal Dorn, who received essentially recruits who were beginning to midway through their training to be full-fledged Space Marines.
Right.
And so from there, that shows that that kind of differentiates them from everyone else, because they had the ability. Because Rogal Dorn had the ability to essentially influence the formation and growth of his Space Marines, as opposed to all of the other ones who met with their Space Marine chapters later, and who, prior to this, big example, Lehman Russ, we talked about before. The Legion pre-Russ of psychotic maniacs. Lehman Russ, King Wolfboy, met his army of psychotic maniacs and was like, I'm going to put wolf pelts on you. And that's about it.
Yep. That's about it.
Yeah. Moving on.
That's my line, damn it. Yeah, so we mentioned Necromunda before. A fun fact, Imperial Fists were among the legions that brought into compliance of Necromunda, along with, guess who else? The fucking Iron Warriors. And, yeah, Rogal Dorn and Perturabo did not get along. We talked about this back in episode 4.
Yeah.
Perturabo, the master of siegecraft, and Rogal Dorn, the master of siege defense,
right?
Obviously, by their natures, would not get along with each other. And it is said that the argument spiraled from a comment Dorn made about how the Imperial Palace could withstand an assault from the Iron Warriors,
right?
In which Perturabo threw a hissy fit at.
Also, I'd like to point out, like, as people, they would not get along, because Rogal Dorn is known for his inability to tell a lie, and his Captain Holt-like demeanor, and how he was embraced by his empire. The empire that he and his father, his adopted father, helped build. Comparatively, Perturabo grew up on Olympia, a planet where everyone screws everyone else over, because that's the nature of politics.
Yes.
So, Perturabo, coming from a planet where everyone lied to him, and lying was just a part of life even though he hated it, and seeing Rogal Dorn, this giant sledgehammer of honesty, riled him up enough where he was incredibly sensitive to everything that Rogal Dorn did, and the fact that their combat doctrines and their legions and combat doctrines and ideologies are so diametrically opposed lends to that punch-counterpunch thing you were talking about before, in that they are literally, and everything about them is written and portrayed to be antithetical to one another. And to the point where all it really took was Rogal Dorn. Someone's asking, Grand Primarch Rogal Dorn, do you think that this build, do you think that the Imperial Palace could withstand a siege from anyone? Yes, anyone. Even Perturabo, the master of siege breaking? Especially Perturabo, the master of siege breaking.
Dorn's buildings!
Yes. And then Perturabo just very loud. Because we can assume that Perturabo was reasonably far away from this. And so Perturabo ran as fast as Perturabo's giant Primarch legs in his fully riveted together suit of armor could carry him. Just, what did you say about me and my inability to break sieges? Ice boy.
Angst.
Yes, angst ensues.
Moving on.
Yes.
Rogal Dorn would continue to be part of the Great Crusade, and the Imperial Fists would win many an honor with their tenacity and building buildings that could not be unbuilt.
Their mad Minecraft skills,
Eventually, the Emperor would name Horus War Master, and some shittery would ensue. But before that shittery could ensue, the Emperor kind of whispered into Dorn's ear and was like, "Hey, you can you come back to Terra with me real quick and just stay there for the next 7 to 8 years?" And Dorn was like, "Weird flex, but okay." And so the Imperial Fists would then take residency. Almost the entirety of the Imperial Fists would take residency on Terra, and they would start to reform the Imperial Palace into a fortress. The fortress. The ultimate fortress.
The Imperial Fortress.
The Imperial Fortress. Dorn would spend the next 7 years reconstructing every aspect of the Imperial Palace to be the literal most well-built structure of defense ever created in the history of man.
Yes.
And that's exactly what he did.
Yeah. It's impressive that he took 7 to 8 years, because the siege lasted a good bit longer than that.
So the Horus Heresy overall took 7 years to complete. The siege itself lasted, I think, I'm pulling this out of my ass here, but I think it was 16 months. Maybe
That's
a little less.
That's pretty short for 40k time.
Yeah, it is. But when you think about it, so much shit was happening at the same time.
Yeah.
you know, those 56 books that were written about the Horus Heresy all pretty much happened around the same time.
Yeah.
Within that 7-year period.
Yep. And so the fact that Rogal Dorn was chosen to build the fortress angered Perturabo a great deal.
Very much.
Yeah.
Actually, that was one of the... We talked about it in our Perturabo video, but that was one of the nails in the coffin for Perturabo. That's literally... That was a catalyst for his unrelenting anger towards Dorn.
Yeah. It's like, I want... Perturabo, his whole life wanted to build a big fort, and he never got to build the big fort. Dorn got to build the big fort.
Because that's what Dorn did.
Yeah.
He built the big fort.
Yep.
It was actually Dorn who would intercept Captain Nathaniel Garrow of the Death Guard aboard the frigate Eisenstein, who fled the Isstvan 3 massacre. Not the Drop Site Massacre, before the Drop Site Massacre.
Yeah.
The Isstvan 3 atrocity, I think it's called, just in general terms. Yeah. Who fled that and to warn the Emperor about what the fuck was going on. But he did not believe him, obviously.
Did he threaten to kill him on the spot?
Yes, he almost did. So that's interesting. But with a gaggle of witnesses that were aboard the ship, the Rogal Dorn was eventually convinced, and he fucking jetted off to Terra to warn his father. And then, funny enough, like, the Emperor was like, "You're never gonna believe what just happened." Magnus just bursted through that wall in a psychic frenzy, trying to warn me about Horus being a traitor. Isn't that funny? And then Rogal Dorn just goes, "Well, father,
Horus is indeed a traitor. Here are several of his men who just watched the rest of their friends die in a virus bombing.
Yep.
I didn't believe them at first, but now, probabilistically, there is enough of them where we can assume that they would not be incorrect if they're all how many hundred of them are corroborating the same story.
Right.
Of different legions at this point.
Right. Yeah, because there was Nathaniel Garrow of the Death Guard, there was the acting crews of the Lunar Wolves, the Sons of Horus.
Yep.
And then a bunch of fucking... a living saint, Euphrates Kila. We don't need to talk about the Imperial Cult, because that shit's annoying.
That'll be the wrong
And a couple of Remembrancers, who literally can't forget anything.
Yep. And they're all just like, this many people. Logically, this many people cannot be wrong.
Right. We'll talk about more of that, though, when we get to maybe the Death Guard or the Lunar Wolves.
Yeah.
Shit's gonna... Yeah, we're gonna talk about that later.
Yeah.
So the Horus Heresy, we continue. There were a couple companies of the Imperial Fists scattered around the galaxy. For instance, what's his name? Fuck.
Fafnir?
Nope. He was in Mount Pharos. Pollux. Alexis Pollux.
Okay.
Captain of the 235th Company, I'm gonna say. I'm pulling it out of my ass again, but I could be wrong. He later became the chapter master of the Fist Exemplar, I believe.
Oh.
Or the Crimson Fists, one of those two.
Okay.
But yeah, he was sent. I think Dorn's message to him was literally, "Bring my wrath to Horus." And that was like the only communication he received from his Primarch before the Warp Storm cut him off. Which is cool.
That is awesome.
Interesting, dude. The guy was fucking massive. Alexis Pollux was like the size of a Centurion, like Centurion armor, just normally. He's fucking huge.
Just the only communication this dude gets is just kick Horus's fucking ass.
Yep, pretty much. And communication.
The galaxy opens and hellholes just tear open everywhere.
Yep. While this was all going on, though, on Terra, there was some fucky shit going on. And a couple people knew about it, but they didn't want to say anything, Malkador being among them. But essentially what was happening was the 20th Legion, the Alpha Legion,
Allegedly,
was infiltrating Terra to kind of fuck shit up, to stir the pot before Horus came. So, like, for instance, they attacked Pluto, they blew some shit up on Terra, like real terroristic type attacks, hit and run, which is what they do. That's what the Alpha Legion does.
Yeah.
They infiltrate. Allegedly, maybe. Was it them? Question mark. I don't know.
Yes. That's
But
the running joke.
this infiltration would escalate when Alfarius himself, maybe would come to reveal himself or herself or itself to not Horus, to
Rogal Dorn.
what is his name? Rogal Dorn.
The subject
during
of this video.
during the Battle of Pluto. And all the while, Alfarius, maybe, and Rogal Dorn were fighting, and Alfarius was like, listen to me, Rogal, listen, there's some shit going on, we need to talk, join me, brother, I'll explain everything to you. Meanwhile, like, Rogal Dorn was like, do I look like I'm fucking listening to you? And then rammed his, like, 6 foot long, 6 foot and, it's more like 8.5 foot chainsword into Alfarius' chest and just ripped him open. Yeah. And then Alfarius, maybe died.
I just want to point out that Alfarius tried to reason with a dude whose whole personality is just a brick.
Literally, so we'll talk about this now. Dorn gives off such fucking, like, brick energy that the warp bends around him. There is no way that the warp can interfere with Dorn because of his steadfastness. The warp literally buckles around him. Hell cannot operate around Rogal Dorn because he doesn't crack a smile.
Do you mean to tell me that Regal Castle Fist of House Castle Fist does not, in fact, succumb to temptation?
Not even a little bit. It's impossible. It is impossible for the warp to influence Rogal Dorn because the warp does not exist around Rogal Dorn.
So Rogal Dorn is technically a blank.
Kinda, only instead of the warp just not existing, he, like, has a negative effect on it. So it, like, recedes in on itself around Rogal Dorn.
So it's like, because the warp is just, it's chaos. It is inherent chaos. And Rogal Dorn is just this epitome of order.
Well, when you think about it, I mean, what could chaos possibly give Rogal Dorn?
Legos?
He has those.
That is true.
He has everything he needs. He doesn't want anything.
That is a very good point.
It's like it's like the most, the richest man in the world winning the lottery.
Yeah.
Cool. You get more money? Great. Have that already.
It's like, what do I need power for? I built the Imperial Fortress, which is still there.
Exactly.
I don't need any of your shit. Go, be gone.
Be gone, demon. Yes. And then literally so that's fun.
It just bends.
It just bends.
Awesome.
Yeah, Dorn's cool.
Wait, does that mean that? Oh, there's another antithetical thing between Perturabo and Dorn.
How so?
Perturabo was cursed with he was constantly under the screaming eye of the warp.
True.
And he couldn't, like, always. No one else could. He was staring constantly at the giant purple sun that was the Eye of Terror.
Yes.
And that was constantly just like. Think of, like, the way I'm going to explain it to the people who, for some reason, are learning lore through us, is if the baby sun from the Teletubbies was constantly crying and screaming.
Oh, God. Damn, that's terrifying.
You can see it. You're the only one who can see it and hear it. And that's just constantly blaring into you. And you try to talk to anyone else, and you're just like, what are you talking about? What? That's crazy. And so you go on, and you meet other people who have similar chaos-based experiences with the extra-dimensional chaos nonsense. And even they're like, what? You see it? It's just there? It's the sun?
Right.
What are you talking about? And then there's Rogal Dorn, who's just standing there, and the constant flow of life and madness that is surrounding him everywhere else. It's just like there's this, like, a 6 foot radius, like a foot wide radius around him that's just gray brick.
Right.
It's like he's walking around his own giant golden pillbox. Just what?
Yeah, pretty much.
What are you talking about? The only thing I need from the warp is for it to fuck off.
Yes.
And then Perturabo just constantly under the effects of the purple sun, compared to Rogal Dorn, who is so immune to chaos that it just shuts off a foot around him.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that.
There's that. Yeah. Good point. So the Imperial Fists would man the walls of the Imperial Palace during the Siege of Terra, and they would eventually. Dorn would accompany the Emperor, Sanguinius, and
some guard dudes, and Alanis Pius.
Alanis Pius was also there. I don't know who else was there because the book's not written yet.
Yeah.
Probably Sigismund because Sigismund.
Yeah, Sigismund was there.
Can we just talk about? Well, this is relevant now. I swear.
Oh, absolutely, we're going to talk about Sigismund.
We're talking about Sigismund for a minute here. So Sigismund is like the ultimate badass.
Yeah.
So during the Siege of Terra, he was. So first off, let's just talk about how Sigismund and Rogal Dorn used to be best buds. Right. Like Sigismund is obviously Rogal Dorn's first captain.
Yeah.
They used to be best buds. He's the head. Sigismund's title is the Marshal of Templar, I believe.
Right.
He held his own his own order within the ranks of the Imperial Fists called the Templars.
Yep.
And these were basically Space Crusaders. They looked like Space Crusaders. They literally had the
big fancy Crusader cross.
Heldrick? No, that's not the word. You know the word I'm talking about. The knight has
the Hospitaller cross.
Okay.
The Hospitaller cross.
That's it. That is it. Okay, that was their symbol. Sigismund was the first captain. They were best buds. Until a small petite girl by the name of Euphrates was like, "Oh, Sigismund, you are the chosen of the God Emperor of mankind." And at this point, that was fucking heresy.
Right.
So Sigismund was like, cool, I'm gonna tell my dad this. And Rogal Dorn was so fucking angry that he told him this, that he bitch slapped Sigismund into a wall. And then refused to talk to him like an adult for the rest of their relationship forever. So that's their relationship.
I just want to point out that the irony of this, because the Black Crusade, Sigismund, we're going to, later on, a little bit later, we're going to get into how Sigismund becomes the chapter master of the Black Templars, who are effectively ultra zealots.
Yes.
Who believe in the divinity of the Emperor and all that stuff. But at this point in history, the Emperor was still around and did not play that shit.
Yeah, he wasn't a fan.
Yeah.
Or was he?
We don't know.
Allegedly not. Okay, but Sigismund would continue to, there was obviously more to that story that we're glossing over. We're going to talk about Sigismund probably in his own video about the Black Templars. So most of that shit is going to be explained in detail there. But for now, let's just talk about how Sigismund, during the Siege of Terra, was basically chosen by the Emperor to be his champion. Yeah. He was given, like, this fancy-ass suit of armor, painted black. Yes. His sword, which was cool. The black sword of Sigismund. I think he had the black sword.
He just named it after himself.
Well, no, it was later then called that. I don't know what it was called at this point.
So it was just the black sword, and then it became the black sword of Sigismund. Sigismund's
right.
sword.
I think
the sword belonged to Sigismund. Sigismund's
right.
sword.
Cusco's poison, the poison chosen for Cusco. Cusco's poison specifically chosen for Cusco. Cusco's poison.
Yes.
Okay. And he was basically told during the Siege of Terra to hunt down and kill every single Chaos champion on the battlefield. So that's what he did. He marched from fucking battle to battle, just slaughtering fucking everyone. So much so that during the read the fucking books if you haven't read the books, because I'm gonna talk about some deep shit here. Literally, far underground, the Abaddon and the first company, the Gestarin of the Sons of Horus, were attempting to like sneak in the basement, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Of course, Malkador knew this was happening and dispatched his knights errant. We're gonna talk about them later, along with Sigismund and a detachment of Imperial Fists. And Sigismund's boys, the Templars, to intercept these fuckers and to kill them all. Sigismund was fucking, I'm not even fucking with you, 3 seconds away from cutting Abaddon in half before Abaddon was teleported away with some warp shit, with some chaos magic. I'm not fucking with you. So, Edrin Har, the Riven Hound.
Yeah.
Basically, he we'll talk about him later, I promise.
Mm-hmm.
He basically died. Abaddon killed him. Really sad, really overlooked death, by the way, in the writing of the story. Right. Whatever, I'm not angry about it or anything. Only the sixth coolest character in the entire Horus Heresy, but whatever. He died, and his body pinned Abaddon to the wall. And Sigismund, Edrin Har, the Riven Hound, was fucking massive, so... Yeah, so his body pinned Abaddon to the wall, and Sigismund was, on the other side, looking at Abaddon, as his body was pinned, he was, flanking Abaddon. Right. He was, literally, I'm not even fucking with you, as the sword was coming down to cut him in half, right. Abaddon teleported away, and his sword hit nothing but the wall. And I tell you, when that part of the book came up, I stood up and yelled, "Fuck!" Good writing. Made me angry, but good writing.
Yeah.
Sigismund would continue to be a badass for the rest of the siege, obviously. Yeah. And he would stay alive, and for 10,000 years, just very angry, and would eventually, 10,000 years later, die to Abaddon's hand. But we'll talk about all that in their own video.
Right.
This is Rogal Dorn, baby!
Yep.
So Rogal Dorn, obviously, was there at the Siege of Terra. He fought with... so far, the books I've read, I haven't finished Mortis yet. I'm still reading it. Mortis came out 2 months ago. So what's it called? Dorn fought Fulgrim. Fulgrim was kind of, so this was after Fulgrim apotheosized into Snake Monster.
Yeah.
But he came at Rogal in the shape of a man for some strange reason. For dramatic effect, I think.
Yes.
Because we all know Fulgrim.
Yeah. Because it would have been extra. Right.
So the way this battle opens, so basically the entirety of the Emperor's Children Legion attacks the walls of the Saturnine walls at the same time.
Right.
The entire Legion.
All 12 of them.
No, unfortunately there were 100,000 of them. 20,000 of them died in this assault, but whatever.
Right. Yeah. This is the one where Fulgrim gets his ass handed to him as a full.
Yep. Rogal Dorn kicks the shit out of him. And fucking he thinks he has Rogal Dorn surrounded, and he's like, "Look around you, brother, your wall has fallen, I am superior and I am victorious." And Rogal Dorn just goes "Do I look like I'm watching?" And then just bitch slaps him in the throat real quick, and continues to pound the shit out of Fulgrim. And then Dorn's like, "Look around you, brother, you're fucking dead, your troops are dead, you've accomplished nothing, I'm still here, the wall is not fallen." Yeah.
So he literally just goes, look at me, Fulgrim. I am the wall. I've always been the wall.
Pretty much, yeah. So after the siege was broken by the arriving forces of Guilliman, the Wolf King, and the other one, the Lion.
Ah, right. Jagged Icon was already here.
He was already there, yeah. The forces of Chaos were beaten back into the Eye of Terror during the Great Scouring. And then, a demon Primarch by the name of Perturabo, would be like, "Rogal, come face me. I have built an eternal fortress on this world." And I don't know why he sounded like Tommy Wiseau there.
No, that's pretty good. So. I like that. Just add growl, because remember, Perturabo spent most of his days bitching about stuff. I have built a fortress on, I have built a fortress world that is better than yours.
I like how we turned Swedish there. Okay, moving on. The Eternal Fortress, the Iron Cage, I will bring back. We talked about this in Perturabo's video. Go listen to that if you haven't. I will bring back Perturabo in an iron cage. It became known as the Iron Cage. Yeah. Before this, Guilliman was like, "Hey, Rogal Dorn, read this book," and Rogal Dorn was like, "No, fuck you and your book." The book being the Codex Astartes, by the way.
Yes.
I'm not going to separate my legion into smaller units because that'll basically endanger the Imperium by thinning out the already thin defenses we have after the Horus Heresy.
Yeah.
And by the way, I have all these men. Check out all these men I have and will definitely continue to have after this engagement with Perturabo. By the way, he loses most of his men after this engagement with Perturabo.
No,
the only reason why all of the Imperial Fists are not dead is because Guilliman arrived with this stupid book and pelted the Iron Warriors to death with books. That's canon.
Yes, they just they just had like a tennis ball launcher thing that shot copies of the Codex Astartes at the Iron Warriors.
Yes, at high velocity, at 40k velocities. to dent ceramite armor.
Killing them instantly.
Yes. Yes. So, Dorn and Guilliman would then shake hands, and Dorn would accept the Codex Astartes, separating his legion into four detachments, 4 chapters. The Imperial Fists, obviously. The Fists Exemplar, who stood for all like the proper traits of an Imperial Fist. The Crimson Fists, which were all like the new bloods, all the newborn soldiers, and the Black Templars, who were fanatically raving.
Angst.
Yeah, they were
just maximum angst.
Yeah, they were that.
We kill the mutants and the heretics and the Xenos.
Am I a big phone call with Grand Marshal Helbrecht now? What the fuck?
Well, they are.
Yes,
they're essentially a legion of Sigismunds, because Sigismund founded Sigismund took control of the Black Templars, and the Black Templars remain the largest legion, and they follow out of all the legions, they follow the Codex. There's like the way the Imperial Fist split up, it's kind of set up in a way that you can see who follows the Codex the most versus the least. Where on one hand you have the Fist Exemplar, who are basically yellow Ultramarines.
Yes.
And on the opposite end, you have the Black Templars, who follow the Codex as some rules lawyer their way through the Codex Astartes like any good paladin should, and basically figured out that the only way that you get to keep forces of more than a certain amount was if you're crusading. And so the Black Templars decided that we are going to be constantly crusading forever.
Yeah.
Because as long as there are Xenos and heretics and mutants, our crusade is not over. And
yes, so that's the actual logic they take.
Yes, that's not a joke.
That is the literal standpoint.
Reasoning. Yeah. And that's how they get to keep more than 1,000 dudes at any one time.
They have like 6 times that many.
Yes.
It's fucking
ridiculous.
Ridiculous is a word, yeah. So, after the Codex Astartes was forced down the Imperial Fist's throat, and they split, time would go on. Abaddon would sit and seethe in the Eye of Terror. Yeah. He would eventually make his way out, which we'll talk about eventually, and launch the first Black Crusade, in which the directly waiting for him outside of the Eye of Terror the entire time. 10,000 years have passed now, by the way. Was the
Black Templar,
the entire Black Templar chapter.
Just straight up, just kind of just standing there, blaring
literally
40K
standing there.
Linkin Park, just like.
Oh, you mean fuck? What's it called? Oh, it's in TTS. Fuck.
Dang it, I forgot. Purging with my king. That's the only thing I can remember.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one.
Okay.
Fuck. Lincoln Loyalists.
We joke about the angst, but the Black Templars literally have a chant that is just them getting onto everyone's comms and just screaming, "We are death! We have come! We are death! We have come!" At an increasing tempo until their drop pods crash into the enemy ship.
Well, that's the Deathwing. Or the Dreadwing of the Dark Angels.
Oh, I thought that was them. My bad.
That's literally what they say. No. So I was wrong. It's not 10,000 years. It's 1,000 years. My bad. Not 10,000 years. Only 1,000 years. M31. Right. So yeah, the first Black Crusade would immediately face the Black Templar fleet, as well as like other Chaos fleet. We'll talk about all that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, Abaddon would face Abaddon, who was about a couple years older than he was during the Siege of Terra, because time is weird within the Eye of Terror. It doesn't really pass, or sometimes it passes too fast, and sometimes it just doesn't pass at all.
Yeah.
Anyway, Sigismund felt all 1,000 years of that weight.
Yeah.
And would then fight Abaddon. He rammed his sword in Abaddon's like chest.
Right.
Like all the way through. But Abaddon just kind of shrugged that shit off, and then also stabbed Sigismund. Sigismund died. Abaddon
Yeah.
didn't.
Right.
But they were so fucking scared of Sigismund that they gave him proper funeral rites and sent his body back to Terra.
Oh, right, yeah, I forgot. Because think about this, right? During this point, they're hearing stories of Conrad Kurz and his endless Batman crusade to hunt Lorgar and eat his skull.
Corvus Corax, but yeah.
Who did I say?
You said Conrad Kurz.
Damn it.
Close enough. Enough.
Yeah, well, at this point, Corax basically becomes the thing that Conrad Kurz always wanted to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, because they're afraid of Sigismund, because they know how the warp works. That people, no matter who you are, if you have enough faith and determination, you can use the warp and come back.
Right.
And the last thing they want to have to deal with is a living saint space marine.
Yep. God forbid, that'd be fucking scary.
That would be fucking scary.
So after this, during the first Black Crusade, Dorn would be surrounded by all enemies on the bridge of a despoiler-class battleship, sort of sacrilege.
Right.
Where he maybe, I don't know, probably didn't, but maybe died.
Yeah.
The reason I say this is, so a lot of people say that Dorn's dead.
Yeah.
I refuse to believe this because all they found was his hand.
Yes.
And in proper Game of Thrones terms, if you didn't see them die, they're still alive.
Yeah. And also, it's 40k. The Mechanicus exists. You can realistically reform an entire person from, like, a skull.
Yep.
Also,
so
fun fact.
It is my opinion that he is still alive.
Yeah, so fun fact. They actually they kept Dorn's hand, his skeletal hand, and they keep it in the shrine of essentially his funeral shrine. And they have, like, every chapter master will, like, engrave his name upon the bones of his hand.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of names, but it's just enough names to weird you out when you look at the giant fucking skeletal hand is probably kept together with, like, armature wire and shit.
Yeah.
So it's like...
Yeah, so, yeah, I think, so nobody knows where he is. My opinion is that he's alive. Not everybody agrees with me. Most forum pages don't agree with me.
Yeah.
But fuck it, right?
Yeah.
I don't care. Everybody's entitled to their own opinions.
It's 40k. Nothing is canon.
Nothing is canon. Everything is canon.
Yes. Alfarius is canon.
Alfarius is maybe canon. I don't know.
I want to just briefly talk about the War of the Beast, because the War of the Beast brings up a very simple concept that more of the Astartes chapters should use this. It's called the Last War Protocol.
Yes.
The Last Wall Protocol. Where
Last Wall.
Where all of the successor chapters, in light of an important threat, reunite in one giant legion. Should Earth come under dire threat. Or Terra, as it is called in 40k times.
Right.
So,
or catastrophic events, right.
Yeah, like the War of the Beast, where Gazkul Maguruk Thraka happened.
Yeah, Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah. The closest thing to a Krork we're ever going to get.
Yep.
So, the War of the Beast, I don't think we ever talked about that. Big Orc happened on Earth. That's what happened. That's the gist. A bunch of stuff happened. A bunch of Imperial Fists died. The High Lord of Terra. A bunch of chapters lost a bunch of dudes. And so... Yeah. But after much work and a whole lot of stuff, including fucking orc submarines...
We don't talk about it.
But they're so cool.
No, we don't talk about it.
It's so dumb. I love it. Anyway,
Vulcan also died on this battle in this war.
He fucking Roman Reigns spear tackled an orc into a giant reactor that blew up. Yeah. So it's not sure if Vulcan survived that, but we can assume
Vulcan lives.
Always.
Stomp.
Yes. I don't know if the mic picked that one up. So yeah. The current chapter master, who was named, Captain Corland, whose name Corlin is the one who enacted the Last Wall Protocol. He died during the War of the Beast. He was killed by the Beast.
Shocking.
And the Imperial Fists effectively, the standard vanilla Imperial Fist effectively became extinct until Maximus Thane. Yes.
Captain Thane.
Yeah, Captain Maximus Thane.
To put in perspective, he is one of the 3 Imperial Fist units that has their own model. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, huh. That's a big deal. So he rebuilt the regular Imperial Fist by having all of the Templars, the Crimson Fist, the Iron Knights, and the Excorian Tours contribute some of their dudes, and then he became the new chapter master of the Imperial Fists.
Right.
Yeah. And then a bunch of other stuff happened, including something called the Beheading, and then more successor chapters happened, like the Halo Brethren and the Sable Swords. And
there's been like 23 foundings of Space Marine successors.
Yeah, we are definitely not going to talk about all of them.
Definitely not. Most of them aren't interesting. Really, there's like 6, maybe 7 that we're going to talk about. Obviously, the space sharks, because we're contractually obliged to talk about the space sharks at least 3 times during this podcast.
Yes.
This is number 1, or else Tiberian the Red Wake will wake me up in the middle of the night. He's bigger than my room, probably, but he'll like murder fuck me to death. I don't know.
House.
He scares me. He haunts my dreams.
Yes. Other notable Space Marine chapters that I think are cool. Successor chapters, as long as we can briefly discuss those so we can build a framework for what we're going to do in the future. The Crimson Fists, those guys are pretty cool.
Those guys are pretty cool.
The Celestial Lions, both of these guys are Imperial Fist successor chapters.
What the fuck are the Celestial Lions? Oh wait, are they the ones? Okay, yeah, no, I know who the Celestial Lions are.
Okay, I'm gonna explain for the 5 of us who know what they are, including for some reason Arch Warhammer.
Right?
Yeah, Arch knows who they are, and no one else.
That guy.
It's me and Arch. That's about it. And Major Kill.
Yep.
So like 3 whole people. The Imperial Fists are led by one Ekene Dubaku. They are I said the Imperial Fists.
Celestial Lions.
The Celestial Lions. God damn it.
I know what you're talking about. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, the Celestial Lions are led by one Ekene Dubaku. They're famous for having a very fiddly paint scheme, being very, very African, and also being one of the only chapters who was absolutely fucking elbow dropped by the Inquisition.
Yeah.
That's what they're famous for. They're famous for having an eternal blood rivalry with the Inquisition because they decided to question the Inquisition once.
Yep. And the Inquisition said, alright.
Fuck you. The Inquisition just said summarily, fuck you and your peace delegation. We're gonna fucking kill them and drop your ship off in Orc space. Fuck you.
Isn't that convenient that it just happened to land in Orc space, right?
With no one alive on it. They sent
very convenient
priests and generals on their ship.
Yeah.
That's who they sent. And then they never heard from them again. And they found the ship literal years later, floating around in Orc space, completely abandoned and empty.
Right.
Because they decided to try and take a rogue and a crazed Inquisitor to task.
Yeah. Yeah, so they've been perpetually fucked by the Inquisition.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about somebody who isn't being perpetually fucked by the Inquisition, but perpetually fucked by life itself, the Lamenters. So the Lamenters are literally the most unlucky sons of bitches to ever grace the fucking galaxy in Warhammer 40,000. They're part of the Cursed Founding, so, like, they just have real bad luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. They're really bad.
Aren't they technically... Oh, right, yeah, we're doing all the successor chapters. It doesn't matter.
They're Blood Angels, yeah.
Yeah. They have the Red Rage, and they're constantly getting fucking elbow dropped by everyone. And they are one of the few Space Marine chapters that actually follow the words of the Holy Vulcan and care about people. And that's what constantly fucks them over.
Yes, their willingness to save people.
Yes.
Because they have, like, really bad unlucky streaks where, like, the ammunition in your clip just decided to explode and you don't have fingers anymore.
Oops. The entirety the entirety of the Imperial Fists, the Lamenters, cannot roll above a 1.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
all roll 1. Like, if you, like, on the tabletop, if we're describing it like that, none of them roll high. All 1s, all the time. They never above a 1. Just constantly. I'm going to try, like, quickly, we must advance. They all advance. Make a save. 1. All of them. Gone. Dead. Eaten by Tyranids.
Dead. All of them are eaten by Tyranids, which eventually happened to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did.
So while we're talking about successor chapters, you can't not talk about the Astral Claws. So the Astral Claws, obviously we'll get into them later.
Okay.
But the Astral Claws, nobody knows where they came from, but people know where they went. They certainly went somewhere. That somewhere being the fucking Eye of Terror. Or not the Eye of Terror, but the
Eastern Fringe.
Yeah, and they led this thing called the Badab War.
Right.
Over the course of which they transformed from the Astral Claws into the Red Corsairs, which are the biggest formation of Astartes pirates, of renegades, that exists in modern 40K.
Oh, right! This is Huron's chapter!
Yeah, this is Luft Huron, and they're very, very, very hereticalness. Very interesting story. We'll definitely talk about the Badab War on its own video, maybe, if we ever get to it.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
I don't remember the name of it. I think they're a fifth successor chapter. They're very Greek. They're constantly going on about how pure they are. I know.
Are you talking about the Minotaurs?
Yeah, the Minotaurs.
Because the Minotaurs are fucking Iron Warrior successors. Fun fact.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
Yup.
That's hilarious.
Yup.
Also, what was I was gonna mention? I forgot. Never mind.
Yeah, the Minotaurs are literally like hoplites in space. They have shields and like hoplite shields and spears. Yeah, they're They're Iron Warriors successors.
Yeah, they're Greek. They're very, very Greek.
They're very Greek. Their chapter master name is. Fuck me. I always remember shit as I'm opening my mouth and then I forget it. What are we talking about? The Minotaur?
Yeah. What are the Minotaurs? Asterion Moloch.
Moloch. Yep, Moloch. He's also fucking massive, by the way.
I feel like that's just... Well, because think about it, their successor chapters, they don't really get their own Primarchs, so all of their chapter masters have to be like mini Primarchs.
They have to be Primarch size, or else.
Yeah. That's why fucking Tadros the Red Wake is the size of a fucking Terminator.
He's bigger than a fucking Terminator. He's almost the size of a fucking Dreadnought, and it scares me.
Right, he's not the size of Terminator. He has to wear his own like custom fitted Terminator armor.
It's fucking massive, and he has fucking chain claws, power fist, chain claw, power claw.
He has Wolverine
power
claws.
chain fists attached to a power fist with power claws coming out of the power fist.
I want to explain what that looks like to everyone else. I want you to take like a giant sock and bopper hand, right? And then just put chainsaws on it in a Wolverine claw-like formation, and then give it a field that distorts the matter it touches, that messes with the molecular bonds, which means that you can essentially cut through anything. He has 2 of them. And they glow like lightning, and they're named Hunger and Slake, and they're cool as hell. And we need to talk about space sharks in their own episode.
Yes. Yes, and there's not much material on them. There's only 3 books. I will read all 3 of those and prep for that. But that was a long fucking sidetrack.
Yeah. But I feel, if I may...
That's it for Rogal Dorn, I suppose.
Final thoughts. Rogal Dorn is just straight up a paladin. In the most, like, the way... For those of you, we assume most of you who are here are familiar with your standard tabletop games, D&D, Pathfinder, so on. Rogal Dorn plays like your standard I am lawful good paladin. Just very, very, very... A brick. A shiny golden brick.
The power of brick.
Yes.
The power of Grayskull.
No, that's Lionel Johnson.
Yeah, you're right.
So, Rogal Dorn. For those of you who aren't familiar with tabletop, I want you to imagine Ron Swanson. Now, just make that guy really, really big. That's Rogal Dorn.
Really big.
That's Rogal.
Yeah.
Rogal Dorn. Who's so big and strong and just set in his ways that, again, he bends space hell around him because of how incredibly set in his ways he is. Which is why I feel like it's surprising that that Rogal Dorn made so many, almost more successor chapters than the Ultramarines.
Just about.
Yeah. So, Rogal Dorn, the fact that Rogal Dorn spread himself so thin after he effectively died shows, like, the varying interpretations of his legacy.
Right.
Where, like, on the scale we have, like, on one end we have the Black Templars who kind of exemplify the flagrant fanaticism of the Great Crusade, because I feel like we didn't talk about this enough. Back when Rogal Dorn was in the Great Crusade, that's when Sigismund started. Like, back when Rogal Dorn and Sigismund got along, Rogal Dorn formatted. I'm trying to set up the Imperial Fists as a crusading army, just mobile, crush, kill, destroy. We're not really here to take stuff for very long. We're here to destroy, rebuild in our name, and leave.
Yeah. And
so the Black Templars exemplify that. The Fists exemplify the Rogal Dorn post-Iron Cage, where it's like the Adeptus Astartes works, the Codex Astartes works. It's the only thing we have that makes sense, so we're just going to follow it to the letter like the Ultramarines did. And so that's how the Fist Exemplar essentially became just kind of Ultramarines. And the Iron Knights and the Excoriators I don't know about. But my knowledge of the first three successor chapters of, like, they represent the full spectrum of Rogal Dorn's acceptance of the Codex Astartes and how that affects how his legacy being tempered with the legacy of the Codex Astartes and the Imperium at large. So it's amazing in how many ways one can interpret a lawful good prick.
Yeah. I want you to read this quote that I'm sending you in Rogal Dorn's voice for our closing thoughts.
Me. There is no enemy. The foe on the battlefield is merely the manifestation of that which we must overcome. He is doubt and fear and despair. Every battle is fought within. Conquer the battlefield that lies inside you, and the enemy disappears like the illusion he is. That is probably the capstone of the Dornian pyramid of greatness.
Yes.
That the real enemy is inside you all along.
Yes. The real journey is just to beat the heretic within you.
I had fun doing this. I'm surprised
Yes.
I thought I was going to do the Rogal Dorn voice way more.
I think it went well.
Yeah.
I think we're good.
Yeah.
That's Rogal Dorn. Next week we are talking about the 8th. Yeah? That comes after 7?
Yes.
Yep. Generally? Yes. 8 is guess who? Guess. I want you to guess who number 8 is.
Lorgar.
Nope. Chaos.
Mortarion.
No, he's 14.
Please be Conrad Kurz.
Conrad Kurz!
Yes!
I could use the slot metal registry of my voice again.
Edge!
Yes. He
Okay,
sounds like Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget.
Yeah, kinda.
I'm gonna figure out a Claw joke in there somewhere.
Good. Okay, next week is Space Edge Batman. And the fucking disturbingness that comes out of him. Love Conrad Kurz.
Best case.
But that should be it for this week. Any questions, comment, concerns, feedback, criticism, other adjective, email us at thebattlebrothercast@gmail.com. Please, as one friend to another, as one battle brother to another, please, I need feedback. Give it to me.
Yes. Tell me how bad my Henry Cavill impression sounds whenever we start doing the Horus Heresy again, and I have to do Lionel Johnson. Please.
Yeah.
Just preemptively.
You preemptively tell Nieces to shut the fuck up.
Yep. And that about does
Okay.
it for today.
But with that, everybody have a great night, evening, morning, drive home, drive to work.
Whatever time it is you Kiwis listen to this.
Yeah, you weird Kiwis that listen to this. We know you're listening. We know you're listening. You love us. We know it. All right. Ave Imperator.
Ave Imperator.